when I say it's a beautiful day, I mean it's a beautiful day.
Well, this week it is outstanding. It's almost scary. It's hard to believe it's the middle of April, and today is supposed to be 24 degrees.
Yeah. And, this is the definition of a good gardener as a man outstanding in his field. Mm-hmm. But, Ken, it is a beautiful day, and we're going to start today off as we normally do. We're going to do the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
Well, my tip of the week this week is, if I can just get my thing. Okay, there we go. My tip of the week, it's time to plant your beans.
It's already time.
I know. Plant your beans, folks. It's time. That's my short tip, but it's a good one. Mm. And the plant of the week is and I'm wondering if you got the same one, the arrowleaf balsam root.
Nope.
Good. We never had the same plant of the week.
Nope.
Hey, there we go.
All right. Well, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that when you get dry soil, it actually repels water. So I always say that when you're out there giving the watering, maybe this year for the first time, it's so dry out there, you want to pre-moisten that soil. You want to give it multiple light waterings before you actually give it its really good watering. It's one of these things. Those light waterings don't really count, but they really do start to moisten the soil and get it to start to accept the water, not repel it. Dry soil will actually repel water. So there you go. So slow soakings really, really pay off. All right, my plant of the week is the pansy group, and there's just so many great pansies out there, and they're so beautiful and so colorful, and they love the cold weather, so they've been blooming outside for quite a while already. But, wow, it's almost too warm for pansies already today. But they certainly do show off, that's for sure. So that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Well, there you go. I'll tell you, I want to do another big shout-out to my Auntie Kay, who I think this week has got her radio in gear. She's got it hooked up to Google. She says, Google Play AM 1150.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so Auntie Kay, if you're listening, it's Ken Salvail and Don Burnett here, your favorite nephew, of course. Well, I don't want to take anything away from Bruce. Bruce is her second favorite nephew. Well, no, just kidding. He's probably first, too. Whoever's in the room is first. Mm-hmm. Got to see my Auntie Kay the other day.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm on the list, the visitation list.
Oh,
so
there
it's
you
very,
go.
very nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
Okay, well, 250-862-2525 to get through to us today. Got a couple of announcements. One is a really important one. I don't know if you know this, Ken, but May the 1st, coming up, is a very special day for gardeners. Okay, it was developed years ago. Probably, let's see, it was developed in 2007 or something like that. It's World Naked Gardening Day.
Oh.
World Naked Gardening Day. Mm. You always wanted an excuse to shed all your clothes and head out to your garden to do some work? Well, if you have, then you probably will want to know about May the 1st coming up, World Naked Gardening Day.
Right.
This unofficial holiday is celebrated annually on the first Saturday in May. The purpose of the holiday is to help people liberate themselves and help them reconnect with the natural world. And while it's a holiday that promotes the nudist lifestyle, it is one that is considered to be very non-political and all done in good fun. So that's a real thing. Google World Naked Gardening Day and you'll hear all about it.
So the farther north you live, it's sort of less fun.
Well, while you're doing that out there celebrating World Naked Gardening Day, you could be checking the soil to see how warm it is.
The soil temperature, yeah.
The soil temperature gauge just by sitting on it, and if it feels comfortable to the bare bottom, you're ready to plant.
Good to plant the tomatoes. There you go.
There you go. Well, it is exciting out there, Ken. So many things blooming on the way down. I saw flowering plums, and of course the forsythia are still in full bloom. We've got the rose tree of China, the Prunus triloba just starting to bloom. Yep. We've got tulips and daffodils, and the crocus are just about done now. Oh, my goodness, it's colorful out there. It is spring, and as gardeners, you should all be very excited, and I know I am. I'm raring to go.
On the way in, I was admiring all the beautiful flowering plums. I could see some blurianas blooming, the double flowering plum, and then the regular Prunus pissardes in color. It's too bad that they're subject to so many insect pests and things. It kind of ruins them in a way because the peach tree borer seems to get into the root and cause them all kinds of distress. So it's kind of a tough one, but they're sure beautiful in the spring.
They are, and all the plums are subject to that peach borer. I do have a sheet on it, and you can keep that under control fairly culturally without too much in the way of pesticides. Well, we don't have any pesticides left to do that job, but the key thing is with peach borer, Ken, I found is that you don't want to create a nice place for them to habitat. You don't want to have that mulch and moist. Keep that dry around the base. They don't like the dry, right? So don't be watering right up against the trunk. Water out on the drip zone, which is where the water is needed anyway, and keep it dry. And that's one of the biggest things, is to not have mulch gathered around the base where the trunk goes into the ground. That is the key thing. And inspect constantly, and if you see any gumming or bleeding, get in there and get the culprit out of there, because
you can use a little piece of wire or something to dig them out, literally. We just brought back a sample just the other day that had two huge larvae in it. Like they're about over an inch, almost inch and a half long, I would say, and pretty fat.
Save them. Those things you can saute them.
Yeah, I think they would be quite delicious.
Very tasty.
If they
very
were
tasty.
Cooked up, But the peach tree borer. There's two categories. There's a lesser peach tree borer and a greater peach tree borer. And the greater peach tree borer, which is what these ones were, the larger grubs, and they'll actually often stay in that tree for 2 years, and they cause a lot of damage. And they hollow out down inside the root, and then they come back up, and they really like to be right at the crown of the plant and into the roots a bit. They seem to get the sugars that get stored in the roots over the wintertime. They really like to eat that wood. It's the sweetest wood.
It's a silent killer. It is. Now, on a large tree can survive without getting killed quite often, but it's troubled. You look in there and you see that reaction wood, callus wood coming around the wound and trying to fix itself,
Yeah.
And it's a sad thing to see. Now, on a small tree, young tree, it'll girdle it. You're done.
Or like these flowering almond shrubs and that sort of thing are devastated by them. Or the red leaf sand cherries, which is another Prunus sestina. They are devastated, and that's one thing. I'm not sure if it's like that in other areas, but in the Okanagan, I guess, because we have the peach tree borer here, and it's so common, it seems almost counterproductive to plant any of these things. And sorry, nurseries, but they're I can't. It's like a birch tree. You plant a birch tree, and what does it do? Yeah. It gets the bronze birch borer. So we know we have a very high population of those, so we don't plant birch trees typically, even though they're such a beautiful tree. Some of the native ones, the wild ones, are a little bit more resistant. The European birches are really highly subject to and they're, I'm going to say, pretty much guaranteed to get the borers, which kills them as well and makes them look horrible.
It's sad, some of these things, because the birch, the white bark on the birch and that cut leaf weeping birch that we used to sell so many of, is a beautiful tree. Beautiful tree in its own right, but
it's a thing
because
of the
that birch, I haven't, Ken, in my work, I haven't recommended in years Pfitzer junipers, even tam junipers, which used to be one of my favorites. I haven't recommended Prunus sestina, the sand cherry. I haven't recommended Prunus pissardi. I haven't recommended any of those. Even Prunus triloba, beautiful shrub as it is, I haven't suggested them in any of my plant schemes.
No.
Never.
No, it's just because we're automatically eliminating those out of the design process because they're just not sustainable, really. Why would you plant something in that's going to be gone in 5 years or whatever, right? So you want something that's going to go in, it's going to have very few problems, it's just going to survive and do its thing and look as beautiful as possible and be sustainable. And if you can put it in the right spot, like it's really this sort of common sense approach. They say right plant, right place. Mm-hmm. And that is just knowing how big that plant's going to get and then how much room you have. Mm-hmm. So you measure the amount of space you have and then select plants that will fit. The problem is that the tags on the plants lie. The tags are lying tags. They just don't they don't tell the truth.
They don't tell the truth.
And they don't tell you what length of time. It's like, okay, well, if it says this plant grows 3 feet high and 4 feet wide, and you go, oh, that's perfect. I'll put it right in here. But they don't tell you that's in the first year, right? It's like, well, what happens in 20 years? Yeah, exactly. So I think that the new rule, new rules, here's a new rule, is they should have all tags should have a length of time that size is
achieved.
Is achieved. Yeah.
And of course that's very subjective too, because the fact is that a Japanese maple will get far larger in Vancouver than it will here. I've never seen Japanese maples the size they get in Vancouver here. Doesn't matter how long they've been in the ground.
20 feet or 30 feet is about the biggest one
I've
ever seen.
And I'm telling you, I've seen some huge ones in Vancouver, and they're the same variety. They just grow differently there. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and it's just like the good example is if you take the same plant, whether it's whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, but something that grows in Vancouver, something that grows in the Okanagan, or take it, plant it in Vancouver, plant it in Kelowna, plant it in Edmonton, plant it in Calgary, plant it in Winnipeg. Wherever you plant it, if it can survive in that climate, let's compare the growth. And you just don't get as much growth time each year.
That's right.
So even though the soil's better on the prairies, it's just a bit colder.
I'd like to get a few truckloads of that dirt.
Oh, yeah.
250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We're going to talk gardening for the next hour and a bit. And, hey, we're here to help you in your gardening endeavors. And it is gardening season, full force right now. Like I say, I'm going to plant my beans this weekend. I got radishes up in the garden. I got onions up in the garden. I got garlic up in the garden, lettuce up in the garden. I got it's just going nuts. So we're very, very happy that it's here. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. Well, there you go. I am just thrilled to be here this morning. It's just I can't believe when I walked out this morning how warm it was, how lovely. And my plants, I put a lot of tropical plants out there that
you're just putting the fear of God into them. It's like this is chilly for these guys. And you're actually quite a bit warmer than probably in just where you live than most of the people here.
Well, it's kind of down by the lake in a way. I've got the influence of the lake
for sure.
But I'll tell you, it's a
lot of hot air down there.
Yeah, a lot of hot air in our neighborhood. There's no doubt about that. But it is just thrilling to have that kind of weather. Yeah. I'm just pulling up my Facebook account so I can see what's going on here. Mm-hmm. I got the communication is something. I got a new phone, and my Facebook account won't allow me into it till I get a password. Can't remember the password. So don't you hate passwords?
Yeah.
I mean, well, totally. I hate.
You can do the forgot my password routine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But that's
I did pull up my my Facebook Messenger, and I see that Dominic is on the line to talk to us this morning. And thank you, Dominic. What a great time for you to phone in on a day that spring has arrived.
Spring is definitely here, and I was thinking of you two fine gentlemen. Actually, about 5 minutes ago, I'm out in the garden looking at the garlic, and oh my God, is it green? It is just it looks fantastic. So when I think of fantastic things, I think of you two guys. So,
well, there you go.
Thanks, Tom.
But the one thing that I'm doing today is I'm applying an application of 18 fertilizer to the garlic and watering it in.
Oh.
Because as the roots start to develop and it gives you enough nitrogen to keep them green and grow, I found it pretty good. And I'll probably put it on another 3 weeks or month, and then about 3 weeks before I harvest the garlic. And I found that it's really, really matures it well, and it keeps it green, and it feeds the roots quite good. But you got to water the fertilizer in because I spread it on top, right?
You need green foliage to create all that wonderful garlic down below, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And the biggest thing is what I found out over the years is not to pull it out too soon. Because another month or month and a half, it looks pretty good. And even if the bulb is developed, but what we do is when we pull it out when it's still, the stems are still really green, and then we peel back the first layer because it's probably could, if you're harvesting the garlic to keep it over the winter and not braid it, you'd put it when the stems are completely dry. Then it's fully mature. So when we're keeping our seed, that's what we do with it. But when you're braiding it, when you pull it out, when it's still a little bit green, dry it a little bit so it's not quite green, or just leave it outside, and then you can braid it. But it's a real timing issue with pulling it. But you can peel back a layer or two to see the actual cloves, because sometimes there's the skin on there. But it's definitely time to put the fertilizer and the garlic, and even sometimes in between I'll put 2100 on it too.
Really?
Yeah.
So you want to kick it into gear.
Yeah.
Get it going.
Got some sulfur content there too.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
Yeah. So the garlic that you grow, are there various types or varieties, or just one?
The only garlic we grew was brought from my grandmother from Italy in the 1920s, and we've just kept the seed.
Great. I love that.
So I don't know the exact variety of it. Like when you look in the books, they've got all the Latin terms, right? So I just call it Italian garlic or Southern Calabria garlic from Southern Italy. So
wow.
But I no idea what variety it is. But it's not a real hard garlic, and the flavor is there's other garlics that are more intense flavor. But it's just this you can use it so many different things. It's not overpowering. And even now, sometime with the cloves, and I'm going to go in for breakfast here in a little bit, is I get the garlic and slice it real thin and make my toast and put some real thin garlic on the toast and have it. It's like garlic bread. It's amazing. It's so good.
Sounds great.
But garlic is such a used herb, I think is the right term for it. But once you get your own seed, then otherwise the seed's pretty expensive when you buy the certified seed. It's very expensive, but you do it. And the other thing you have to be careful of, depending, I don't know what the technical term is, but over the years we've had some white rot where you get like a white mildew on the roots. And then we've had to change sites. Like every year we try to rotate the sites a little bit so you don't get that. And the other thing we found over the years, bringing soil in from other places, you have no idea what's in that soil. And sometimes we've gotten some soil to fill in a bit of a low spot, and we've brought in some contaminants. So you got to be careful of that when you're bringing soil in from other places. So
not much you can do about that. Like you say, it's so hard to tell.
Oh, I hear you. No, it's a difficult thing, but you learn by experience that certain areas if there was a construction site that they were getting rid of some what you think is pretty good soil, I probably wouldn't take it because you have no idea what's in it.
Yeah, right. Now, Dominic, just so that we have it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yep.
When do the farmers plant their tomatoes? Outside.
The tomatoes?
Yeah.
I'll make the story a little bit long for a second. Is after the last quarter in May of the moon. So usually it runs on the May long weekend, but it could be a few days either way, because you'll find out that the weather will change on that last quarter. So it's after that a few days. But the key element is if there's snow on Little White, don't plant anything, not even seeds in the ground, because the soil's too cold.
Wow. There you go.
So that's the barometer. But it's usually after that long week. Even if the weather is fantastic, you don't. We found over the years that you don't really gain anything. Like we planted peppers and that out in June and still harvested in late August. You don't really gain anything if the weather's a little bit unsettled. That's what we found over the years.
So patience pays off.
Totally. And you get excited because you get weather like this, I got to do this, I got to do that. But we've even when we plant the basil seeds outside, we don't plant them till first couple weeks in May, because it takes a week or so for the seeds to germinate. But if the soil's too cold, the seeds aren't going to germinate anyhow. So you don't really gain anything out unless you're doing it commercially timed.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be careful because that frost in May, we've lost lots of plants over the years.
Dad remembers, and I don't know the year, but Dad remembers he used to talk about it. They had a frost on the 24th of May.
Yep. We've been there, done that, and once you get the tomatoes can take a little bit of frost because the outside leaves will turn a little black as long as the head of the tomato plant is okay. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to take that gamble for we planted up where 30 or 40,000 plants outside. Well, you don't want to take that gamble planting all those, and then you couldn't probably find that many plants.
That is for sure.
In the valley, anyhow, if you had to replant them. So patience is definitely a virtue when it comes to farming.
Dominic, thank you, buddy. We always appreciate your advice and your insight into farming because you've done a lot of it. And
so remember, have your garlic with your toast in the morning.
I know. And try and keep your friends through all that. Anyway.
That's right. Okay. Have a good day,
Take
guys.
care, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Dominic.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful day again today, and we are talking about gardening. And Dominic Ramponi is the chief gardener, commercial gardener, that will phone in and give us advice. And, you've often wondered how those guys do it. I mean, every year they come up with these crops.
Yeah, and it's one of these things like we talked all about the differences between the cold crops and the warm crops, and predominantly we're talking about the warm crops in this discussion. Is when to put those warm crops out, and there's really not much advantage to pushing that limit. And where you live is a factor, and those little microclimates around your house are a factor. So there's areas where the soil is still cold, and that's one of the things. But there's plants that really like that cold soil, like your radishes and and all those leafy plants like the lettuces and spinach and the mesclun mixes and all that. Boy, they just spring to action as soon as they touch soil, cold or not. But yeah, it's interesting. The basil, I find, is something I just wait and wait and wait and wait. And I don't. I usually aim at the 1st of June for basil. It's just such a heat lover.
It loves the heat. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to take a short break here at 250-862-2525. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Dan Bruce on the line. He's got something for us again today. We're always excited to hear what he has to say. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. We are back and happy to be here. It's a beautiful day out there. The sun is shining, and even in Lake Country, where Dan Bruce is calling in from, it's probably pretty warm. Morning, Dan.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I didn't freeze last night.
No, I tell you, it's pretty nice weather out there. Things are starting to hop and pop. And so what have you got for us this morning?
Oh, well, a sort of a mixed bag.
Okay.
If you look at some older maps, detailed maps of the Okanagan Valley, particularly west side, particularly just north of Fintry, you'll see a name, a strange name on there, Nepenthe, Nepenthe, Nepenthe. Mm-hmm. It's a Greek name for a plant that, in fact, we're not quite sure what the Greeks were referring to, but it had sort of medicinal, soporific effect, Nepenthe. Hold that thought.
Okay, we're holding it.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, known to everybody as the creator of Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? He was Scottish.
Oh, of course.
Born in Edinburgh, 1859. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, the whole world knows of Sir Arthur as the creator of Sherlock Holmes that has become, part of our culture. Everybody knows about it. But some people may not be quite so familiar with another character that he created, Professor Challenger. Sherlock Holmes was cool, calm, and collected, and never got excited and fussed up, and usually achieved his object. Professor Challenger, on the other hand, was quite a different character. Big, black, bushy beard, belligerent, hard to get along with. In the novels, he led an expedition to the Lost World.
Okay.
And this Lost World was in fact real. It was the high mountains of Guyana and Venezuela. These high mountains are rock formations standing hundreds of feet above the jungle, flat-topped. Some of them are quite large, and they're called tepuis. So the concept in the novel was that these isolated plateaux have been isolated for so long that in fact dinosaurs still lived up there. And this was the whole story about the...
This was the story, right?
The Lost World. And Professor Challenger wanted to get up there and have a look around. Mm-hmm. And in the books, he succeeded and caught a pterodactyl and brought it down and took it back to England, but it got away.
Hate when that happens.
Hate when that happens. Anyway, the pterodactyl issue obviously was a story. Mm-hmm. The tepuis, however, are definitely real. Mm-hmm. And up on top of these things are not dinosaurs, but a really interesting collection of plants. Mm. A large number of them are bromeliads, and we spoke about bromeliads last week in the form of the pineapple. But also, a lot of the plant material up there are carnivores. Mm. So they are plants that live in very, very impoverished soil, and they get a good part of their sustenance by capturing insects. Mm. We've all seen Venus flytraps, and, pitcher plants, and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. One of the genera of carnivorous plants has been named Nepenthes. Mm. Oh. And if you're really into it, you can go to the greenery, and they have Nepenthes for sale.
You got me going.
Very cool.
They are really fascinating things. They live sort of epiphytically in trees, and at the tip of several of the leaves, this container is formed naturally, which contains a sweetly scented fluid, and the insects come, they get trapped in this fluid, and they are then dissolved and eaten by the plant.
I love
Interesting.
It.
Sounds almost as horrific as dinosaurs.
Yeah. It does. And I love the thought of carnivorous plants. It just really kind of turns me on for some reason. I had a Venus flytrap for a number of months last year. It just did so well, and it bloomed. It actually got a blossom on it, but and it trapped numerous flies over a period of time. And but the key with that, now a lot of those plants that are carnivores, including the Venus flytrap, are quite. They need to be very moist. They live in swampy areas. High
humidity is what is required. But for those who really want to pursue the matter, there's a young fellow, surprisingly Scottish, Stuart McPherson, who has created a group of companies. You can look them up on the internet. Red Fern is the name. And he organizes very, very interesting and well served ecotourism tours. And one of his early books was about the lost worlds of the Guyana Highlands.
There's another place I'd love to go. You can't go everywhere, can you?
No, you can't. But it would be amazing to join Stuart McPherson on some of his eco tours. He is a very well organized young fellow. University of Durham, University of Tübingen in Germany. Apologies to all our German speakers. I haven't pronounced that properly.
Yeah.
And he also attended Yale University in the States. Wow. So he's still very much alive and with us. And he has produced not only this Lost Worlds of the Guyana Highlands book, but several other volumes about carnivorous plants.
Cool. Boy, the world is full of interesting people. And Dan Bruce, you are one of them.
I don't know about that.
You're very interesting. We know that. Dan, we're going to have to move on here, but I'll tell you, we always appreciate having you phone in because you always come up with something. And one of the things Donna, my wife, mentioned to me is get Dan to talk a little bit about birds. You know so much about birds. And we should chat a little bit about some of the birds that frequent the area, some of them that frequent the area that really aren't native here, that have been imported and sort of arrived.
Well, I'm more than happy to launch forth on the fascinating subject of chickens.
Oh, okay. That'd be great. So next week we're going to talk chickens, not turkey.
Not turkey. But all right, so
let's do it.
In deference to the lovely Donna, we will talk chicken next week.
Yeah, okay. Take care, Dan. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, there you go.
We're going to talk chicken next week.
Yeah, well, that was very, very interesting. The carnivorous plants and the story, you know, how it all knitted together.
Yep, we'll have to look more into that.
Yeah.
250-862-2525. You want to join us? We got 15 minutes left on the first part of the show and a whole blistering hour between 9 and 10. So give us a call. We'll be back with more AM 1150. And we are back with you. We got 3 callers waiting to talk to us, and Lindsay is number 1. Lindsay's first up.
Good morning, Lindsay. Hello.
Hi there. I have some questions about mulching. We've been gardening for a bit, but fairly new, just getting into it. We have a black mulberry bush in a south-facing yard that we put in 3 years ago. It's about 6 feet tall now. And I wasn't sure if we should just leave the grass going around it or if it would be better to mulch it.
Well, the mulch is always beneficial to plants like shrubbery and that sort of thing. They all appreciate it because that's sort of the normal thing. If you think of anything that's a woody shrub or tree in nature, pretty much everywhere, they live in their own leaf litter. Because nobody's out there cleaning up. So that would be normal. If we cleaned it all up and got rid of any mulches, surface mulches, that would be abnormal. So which is better? Always lean towards Mother Nature and provide some mulch. Yeah, and it should be a well-composted mulch, ideally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not just bark chips or uncomposted sawdust or shavings. Should be well-composted mulch.
Okay, would it be something like what they have at the landfill from the green bins?
Yep, you've got Ogogrow, you've got Glen Grow, and Nature's Gold is a more processed and cleaned up, and Nature's Gold is a fine product for putting around. It's just standard mulch that they sell, a medium mulch or whatever that they sell, Ken?
They have it's a landscape. The landscape mulch is what I use. It's chunky enough. I like things to be chunky because it more resembles the natural forest litter that you would find,
Okay, great. And how would you dig the grass out first, or turn it over, or just put it over the grass?
I would dig that, take it down an inch and a half or so underneath the root system of the grass. Take a flat shovel and just kind of scrape it down that way, and then take that away. Yeah.
Okay. And how far out from the tree should it be mulched?
So, this is a mulberry tree. Then it's going to grow into being a tree, right? It's a bush. It's basically a tree with the trunk cut off. Right. It's gone multi-stem.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can get very, very large, and they're just such a beautiful fruit, and not very many people have them, and it's kind of a nice thing to have. So that gives us an idea that sort of for a tree, you generally, if you have the luxury of space and the ability to do it, you would go out as far as you could away from that tree, like up to maybe 6 foot radius all the way around.
Okay.
Depending how big it is, but so we have space and we have to limit it sometimes. So that would be ideal, but maybe you'd be in that. I'd say sort of a minimum is probably 2 to 3 foot radius.
Think of it as you're going on top of the root structure. So the roots don't go out 10 feet from a mulberry more than likely, or maybe small ones do. But around the drip line. Around the drip line on a mulberry bush, that'd be about right. Yeah.
Okay. And how deep should mulch be?
4 to 6 inches
is the maximum. Yeah. The
maximum. Okay. And I'm planting some seeds for the bees in a couple of patches, and I've never used mulch in garden beds before. Is that something I should be doing, or is it okay to just have soaker hoses down and water them regularly?
Well, mulch is always beneficial between plants. If you have sort of assorted flowering plants, generally you get them started first, and then you mulch around them, but you don't actually touch the plant with the mulch. Okay. You always stay back a little bit. Even a tree, we stay back about 10 or 12 inches from the trunk. But if you were
leave some dirt around the trunk and then mulch.
And the little plants, like little seedlings and stuff coming up, you got to stay back at least about 2 or 3 inches. So you kind of build in between them, and you develop these little mounds. So in that case, you'd be in that 2.5 inches deep for your mulch layers in between flowering plants and stuff.
And last question, still mulch related. Sorry, there's a lot to do with mulch.
It's good.
We put in 2 blueberry bushes, and I added some of the aluminum sulfate to try and bring the pH down a bit. Mm-hmm. And then we have the fir bark chips over that, because I thought those would be more acidic than the regular chips. Mm-hmm. Should I be adding compost on top of that, the composted mulch, or?
You could, because the fir mulch is probably going to resist breaking down. But the fir, if it's actually Douglas fir mulch, it will be one of the best barks to use. So it's each type of species of bark is rated, and the Douglas fir is one of the best barks to use. But the regular compost is still superior because it's got more than just bark in it. It's got all kinds of goodies in it. So, I'd say you could definitely add it on top or mix it in with it, and it would help to break the bark down a bit more. So, that would be
awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. I love your show. It's wonderful listening to you in the morning on Saturday. It's a nice way to start our day.
Thank you very much.
Very nice of you. Take care.
Thanks, you too.
You betcha.
Happy gardening. Bye-bye.
And we're going to go right back to the lines. It's Myrna.
Hey, Burnett. How are we doing?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I have a flowering maple that I've had for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. I keep it in a pot. And usually in the fall, I cut it back, and then it grows tall and lanky in the summer and blooms these little tiny red flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last year I decided not to cut it back, and it's not so now it is blooming these lovely little red flowers all over the place. Mm-hmm. Now once it finishes blooming, though, I don't know what to do with it. Cut it back or leave it.
It's all about the amount of space you have, and if it's really starting to outgrow its pot, they get kind of a bit tippy. So I would consider that, that if you're able to maybe pot it up, maybe one more pot size bigger, and, because these particular plants will bloom typically on any new little shoots that come on the plant, and they're really quite lovely, actually. The botanical name is a butylon, and so that particular plant is really quite fun to grow. I always wanted one, and I never actually got one. But we used to grow them, have them in the greenhouses. But really pretty plant. So it's really up to you in the space you have. I would just say that because they're gonna maximize their flowering through the summertime. Do you ever put that outside in the summer?
Well, yes, but always in the shade because it just does not seem to like the sun.
Yeah, you have to adapt them to the sun very gradually over about a month. So it's one of these things. They can take the sun, but you have to ease them into it, like literally a couple minutes every day. But when they go from inside to outside, often that's what really gives them a hard shock. So it's the first couple
I've
weeks.
never done that with it. I keep it outside, but just generally where it's nice and cool, not out. It seems to like the light, but not the sun.
Yeah, you might want to just trim it back when you bring it in the fall, and then that way, when that happens, because then you got less space to worry about over the winter, and then by spring, just literally don't do anything else to it. Just move it out once you hit about the end of May, and that's when the temperatures are just about right for that.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Myrna. Appreciate the call.
Bye.
And
Bye-bye.
we have Lily. Good morning, Lily.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, we're here.
Yeah, I love your show.
Well, thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. How do you keep cats out of the garden beds?
Oh, I got a trick for that. You know what? The best way to keep cats out of the garden bed is to get some nice long rose canes. Particularly, most likely the best ones are from a climbing rose. About 18 inches long, the rose canes, still with the thorns on them, and just lay them here and there in the garden. They don't have to be flooded with them, but the cats do not like negotiating through those thorny things. A gal, Ruth Rushton, told me that trick years ago, and it's worked.
Works fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And do you put bone meal into the when you plant vegetables into the rows when you seed it?
Yeah.
Well, there's some merit to it. It's not as much merit as we probably used to think, but some bone meal is okay. It's. I think the jury's still out as far as I'm concerned on that, the bone meal thing. But if it feels good to do it, do it. Doesn't hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more question. We got this place recently, and there's a lot of lava rock, and I wanted to put a rose bed in. If I take the lava away, a couple of feet and dig it and put good soil in, can I leave the lava rock on that place?
Yeah. Well, the lava is not going to hurt anything. But
it's a little hard to garden in.
It's just hard to garden in. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's about it. Yeah. And you want to mulch your roses in the fall often. Yep. So, what I would say is you just clear it back about probably maybe a 36-inch circle for each rose. Just open it up, plant your rose in there, add some nice, maybe a bit of manure to dig in there. Yeah. And then a little bit of mulch on the surface. And then in the fall, you can put a nice big pile of some sort of compost on it to protect it for the winter.
Lily, we're going to have to move on. We've got to take a break.
Great.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Thanks
You're
for
a dear.
phoning.
We appreciate your call.
Bye-bye.
Now, we've got Dennis waiting for us. We got another one phoning in, but we're going to have to take that big break for the 9 o'clock news, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. Okay, just before we get to Dennis, because we know he's been patient, he's waiting to get on, and we want to talk to Dennis. Vicky is wondering if how far back to cut her lavender. It's an older bush, Ken, and I suggest you want to brutalize it, like really take it down. If it doesn't grow back, then plant a nice young one again. Because the thing is, once they get real old and woody and heavy at the base, if they don't respond by a heavy pruning, they'll never be really nice. Is that Good advice?
Yeah, and I have a technique of cutting back all lavenders, which is the same every year, and that is that I go in, find the center of the plant, and I go in and I try to find the biggest, woodiest stems that grow outwards from that center, and I just literally remove those or cut them back to about 3 inches long. So take out all the big ones, and then I go back and then I just sort of trim it into a sort of a ball shape that's about maybe 14 inches in diameter. So, you really, like you say, cut them back hard.
Mine's
really hard.
down 4 to 6 inches. I cut mine
14
down every
inches
year.
in diameter by about maybe 10 inches higher. So just depends on the plant, but the trick is getting rid of all that old stuff. So this is an opportunity, but if it has been run over, it's probably split the stems.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to the phone lines, and Dennis is on the line. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, guys. Nice to talk to you.
Well,
A couple of questions for you this week. First of all, I want you to refresh my memory on the white paint you told me to paint the bottom of my apricot tree with. Can you remind me what it was?
It's interior white latex paint.
Interior latex white.
Yep.
Okay. I did have a can, but I had a mishap in my garage and spilt lots of my paints, and I couldn't remember what it was.
Ah, there you go. So now your floor's all kinds of colors.
My butterfly bush in the side of my garden got badly damaged this year, and I think it's toast. I had to chop it down. I'm going to dig it up today, but I want to replace it with another butterfly bush. Are there some dwarf varieties instead of the big, huge thing I had?
Yes, yeah. There are several different varieties. Keep in mind that yours still might come back, even though if the top dies back, they don't shoot up until about towards the middle of May sometimes, so it may still come back.
This is actually down to the ground. It got really mutilated, and
Yep.
it looks very, what little is left looks very unhealthy, so
Yeah.
I decided not to bother leaving it, so...
Just yank it out. Yeah, the new ones are really good. There's some really good ones. They're very hardy. They grow up to about 5 feet high or so, and maybe 6 feet.
That would do fine.
Yeah, and they're just beautiful, colorful. I can't give you a name just off the top of my head, but there's a lot of good ones available now. You just
If I
have
go to Bylands, I should be able to get one, eh?
Yes, and just keep looking. I don't know if they're in the stores yet because, again, they are slow to get started in the spring. So, but, they're slower. They're a summer blooming plant, so they're not in a hurry to get going. So anyway, yeah, you have to just keep your eyes peeled, and if you see a good one, and read the labels and check on that dwarf status, and you're good to go.
Okay, great. Thanks very much for the help, guys.
Yep.
Dennis, great talking to you.
And you.
Yeah,
Take care.
Happy gardening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Caller from West Kelowna wants to know from Dan, and of course Dan's gone now, but she wanted to know if the hummingbirds are late this year. She has yet to see any. I don't know, maybe Dan, if you're listening, you could give us a call and let us know a little bit about the hummingbirds, but also somebody out there just might know almost as much as Dan, and they could phone in and let us know.
Yeah, and I'm sure they come and go at different times this year. It seems to be early weather-wise, so I'm sure they're in the area. And he said to get your hummingbird feeders out April 1st.
Yep. So
that
there
was,
you go.
he said so. Anytime.
Jack is on the line joining us. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, guys. Another great show. Thanks very much. I've got some beautiful daffodils that are blooming right now, but I want to use that spot for some annuals and put them in. When can I move them, and what's the real proper procedure for moving these daffodils and wintering or over the summer, and then planting in the fall?
Well, the best thing is to mark where they are and dig them in July.
Oh.
That's the best way. That's what the growers would do, because by digging them now, you do interrupt them. You're probably not going to kill them, Jack. You could lift them and heel them in somewhere and let them kind of, keep the foliage on. Lift them up as much as you can with as much soil. Put them somewhere else in the garden where you don't need them, and then in July, lift them up and transplant them somewhere else.
Okay, so the best thing is to leave them right now, which I will do then, and do it in July.
Yep.
And then can I put them in a bin with some peat moss on them or soil?
And that is to keep them over winter?
No, to keep them until I plant them in the fall.
Okay, well, there's no reason why you couldn't plant them right away.
Okay.
Like if you're digging them from one spot in July, you can put them back in the ground somewhere else.
Okay.
Because that's where they normally would be anyway. So,
okay.
I mean, you could keep them, the bulb producers, dig them in July and then store them cool, relatively cool, not real cold, and then they sell them in the fall.
Okay. Okay.
And then we plant them in the fall.
Okay.
But the ones that don't get dug up are in the ground permanently, So, yeah.
Okay, and the other thing is it's all right to put your grass clippings around your annuals as a mulch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be good. I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot of food supply for them. I would just keep it off the plants and keep it in between them, and that's the ideal.
Yeah, that's what I mean, in between them.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. Good, thanks, guys.
Jack, thank you for the call.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We're having a good time. We're on the AM 1150 Garden Show, which has been happening for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Since 1983, we've been here. The trip to England is happening in May of 22, so that's about a year from now. And we're just hoping that everything is going to be safe to go. I'm sure it will be. If it's not, anybody who puts their money down can get their money back, because if it gets canceled due to COVID. But it looks like it should be good, and it's going to be a fabulous trip to Chelsea. I was at Chelsea in 2016, and the experience was so great, we decided we're going to do that again. And then we're going to go up to the Floriade show up in Holland, in Amsterdam. We're going to take that one in, and that one only happens every 10 years, so it's pretty good. Ken, I forgot to tell you. Do you go to the gym?
A couple times a day.
Yeah, me too. I go once a day, but I don't go in. I just go there.
I just kind of
sit outside.
I drive by and just make sure it's,
there we go.
I actually check the gardens out front. Make sure they're
look at the gardens
okay,
in front of the gym. The gymnasium gardens. Yeah, right. Well, things are sure popping up in our yard. My native fritillaria and also the native orchid is coming up in the garden, and it's looking healthy.
You're going to have to come by and
it's pretty exciting.
Pictures of those.
Pretty exciting. They haven't come into bloom yet, but they're certainly coming up. And all sorts of little things coming up in the garden that we planted last year from our good friend Helen. And there's things that I have no idea what the names are. There was one beautiful plant coming up and had this gorgeous blue blossom on it. And no, it was a red blossom. And it only produced 2 blossoms. So I thought, oh, great, I'm going to take a picture of this and send it to Ken, see if he knows what the name of it is. And in the process of putting a new deck on our thing, I stepped on it. And the blossom came off. The plant's okay, but I stepped on it. So, yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, before we take a break, we're going to talk to Yvonne. Good morning, Yvonne.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Excellent, thank you.
Good. Hey, I just wanted to let you know a couple of things. One is we saw our first hummingbird 2 days ago.
Oh, excellent.
So that is nice, and we've been seeing them since. So, just flying in and out at our feeder here. So that was good news because, it does seem late this year.
Yvonne, how does that compare to previous years?
Late. It seems late because I thought for sure last year when I put the feeder out at Easter, there was one came immediately.
Oh.
So it does feel late considering the weather's been warmer, hey?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe with COVID they heard the news and they weren't coming this way.
That's right.
Yeah, well, they're not coming in crowds.
Well,
so
when they do
coming
come
individually. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
When they do, they have to isolate once they come here. So.
That's right. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Hey, but I do have a question, or two maybe. We just got some horse manure. I think it's probably pretty fresh, and I'm just wondering, is that going to be too hard to put on the vegetable garden at this point, or should I be waiting till next year?
Be very careful with horse manure. Any manure that's fresh, be very careful with. My dad used to say it should be aged for a year or two at least to make it so that it's viable.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's got a lot of ammonia in it and it could burn.
Okay. So I will wait a year. And
but it's
then,
good stuff.
Then I might just need to augment our soil a little bit. I mean, typically every other year I do put some manure in it, but so I won't have any this year. But it needs it this year. So what would you recommend just to kind of augment it? I put some of my own compost on it last year, but I, again, won't have enough to kind of build the soil up.
Well, now, having said what I just said about the horse manure, this is another thing that Dad used to do. As a matter of fact, I got a picture of myself and my dad and my brother bringing horse manure into the greenhouses. And he would bring in relatively fresh horse manure, and he would dig a trench and then put a layer of horse manure 6 or 8 inches deep, and then put the soil back in and plant into that.
Oh.
So now it not only rotted down there, but it was giving off heat. To heat the ground up.
So for the composting effect, yeah.
While it's composting, it gives off the heat.
Oh, okay.
There's some minor issues with horse manures that sometimes they carry a little bit of a potential. If you know where the horse manure came from, for sure, you can always double check that they weren't using herbicides on the field where the horses were, because the manure sometimes carries herbicide in it. So the fresher it is, the stronger the effect of the herbicide as well.
That's
and
right.
it's fairly common because nobody likes the noxious weeds in the fields where the horses are. So they're often you just have to be aware that that's a possibility. And
Grazon is the product that they use more often than not, and it's very commonly used on pasture land to kill the thistles and all the different broadleaves. It doesn't hurt the horses, but it does go through their system and out the back.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, so it's okay. I'll ask them where.
Find out. Make sure there was no herbicides used on the.
Okay.
Field, Okay.
Okay. Good. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you, dear. We appreciate your call.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
On that note, we're going to take a short break and invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us, and we'll be back with more AM 1150.
All righty, we are back, and it's a gorgeous day here in sunny Okanagan. And we're just going to mention really quick here that the Okanagan Xeriscape Association is having they're starting their big sale, which is one of their main fundraisers, and it's really important to be aware of that. This year, it's online. Not sure, Don, if you were able to find that yet.
I haven't, Ken, but I will. I'll grab that off the emails here that I've had.
The sale starts on Earth Day on April 22nd, but it's just for members only. So the idea is maybe it's a bit of a membership drive, because if you could join up and become a member, you'll have access to the early bird sale and have your best selection of plant material. So it's only $25 to join, and it helps to support the Okanagan Xeriscape Association. So that's you can check that out at www.okanaganxeriscape.org. Which is, of course, spelt Xeriscape with an X, not a Z.
That's right.
And there you go. And
it's not Zeroscape.
Yeah, and then after that first week, the first week's just for members, but the second week, then it's just open to the public, and anybody can come in and buy up their plant material that they have that's available, all the drought-tolerant plants, and they've got quite an extensive selection of plants.
Beautiful. And, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to... use less water, and that's one of the ways to do it. It's to plant plants that don't take as much water.
Yeah, it's seeming extremely dry this year. I think it's been 2 months since we've had any rain.
We haven't had a drip of rain, not a drop or a drip.
Not a drip or a drop. Yeah, but next, the long-term forecast, I think I was checking that maybe next Friday it might, but it's only a 30% chance, and in the Okanagan, 30% chance of rain is like,
not good.
Not good.
We have 13 hours and 55 minutes long today. Today will be. It's 5 hours and 50 minutes longer than the shortest day on December 22nd. So we're getting there. By the time we get to June 22nd, it'll be 16 hours and 21 minutes long. Nice long summer days coming up.
That's amazing.
We have a caller on the line here, and Amber's going to tell me it's a Samantha. Good morning, Samantha.
Good morning. How are you, folks?
We're well, thanks.
Good, thanks.
Thank you. Many years ago, I planted large potentillas because I wanted my yard to fill up fast. Now, 20 years later, they're quite big, and I'd like to change them out for some smaller ones. Do you know the names of the small ones that grow really low to the ground and will bloom the longest?
Yeah, well, there's a couple that are really good. The one called Yellow Gem is a really good one.
Okay.
And it doesn't get much taller than about maybe 20 inches or so.
Okay, that would be good.
It spreads out about 3 or 4 feet wide, I think, eventually. But it's quite low and moundy. It's really quite a pretty one, and it's strong blooming. Yeah, really good, strong bloomer. I think there's probably a few newer varieties out, and I don't have many of those in my repertoire right now. But just like everything else, there's so many new plants being introduced every year.
Yes.
And one of the key points that they're trying to develop into the new plants is size control. So that just means that they're developing plants that stay smaller. And they're easier to manage and don't require much maintenance at all. So
that would be wonderful. Okay,
yeah.
I'll look for some of those. Plus, you said yellow gem.
Yellow gem is one of the low ones.
That would be very helpful. Thank you so much.
I may be showing my age, but do you remember one called Red Robin?
Yeah,
I have heard of it. Yes.
Yeah. Red Robin, I think, is a small
kind of orangey.
It's an orangey red color. Yeah.
Yes, that would be nice too.
Short, yeah.
All right, I'll look for those. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samantha. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Calling.
Yeah, the old potentilla, like Pope and Talbot. That's what people used to ask for.
Yep.
Come in and say, do you have any Pope and Talbots?
Yeah, absolutely.
They also used to come in and ask for pyorrhea.
Yeah. We didn't have any of that.
No pyorrhea and no saliva.
No,
none of that. Salvia, of course, and pyracantha.
Mm-hmm.
Running Jupiters was a good one I had.
We had those.
Running Jupiters, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had
lots of different kinds of plants that people came in. Misnomers. I got a whole list of them somewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to review those. And, that was, it's always fun working in a nursery, as a job, and especially as an expert, when you have the knowledge, it's actually just super fun. Just sit and talk to people about plants all day. But it's interesting the people that you come across and the interesting questions that you get. And it really it seems like just like this show, I guess, is it stimulates more questions. Right. The more questions people ask, the more questions you get, and it's really quite fun.
I often thought it would be kind of cool. Maybe in our next life, Ken, we can do this. We'll write and produce a sitcom.
Yeah,
centered around a garden center.
Yeah,
you have the various employees, the different personalities. You have the boss.
It's like
you have
Faulty Towers, except with gardens.
Faulty
Gardens.
Maybe. Faulty Gardens. Yeah, it would be great. I think it'd be a lot of fun. We got to try that.
Yeah.
We'll
next life.
Next life. I don't have time this time. I got to get my lathe going. I can't. I told you. Well, I've told everybody. I've got a lathe coming at the end of the month.
That's
and
a metal
milling machine, metal lathe, and a milling machine. We're going to have some fun.
Wow!
I tell you. We have Maxine calling in. Good morning, Maxine.
Hey, I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday this week, too.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you, Max.
Well, we did, Ken, and I did, have to do that. I kind of make those notes in the column, and I thought, well, we better keep it, the both of you, the same,
Well, yeah. Otherwise, we start fighting. We start fighting on air here.
I don't want favorites. I don't want to show any favorites.
No, of course not, Max. Yeah, well, you do a great job. We appreciate that, and recognizing people's birthdays. You do that all the time, and that's very, very cool. Very cool.
Well, it's a beautiful day, and thank you for taking my call and just listening to what you guys have to say.
Thank you, Max, and whenever your birthday is, happy birthday. Okay.
Oh, it's in August. I'm a true Leo. August 6th. I am a true Leo. Even the weird things about Leos, I'm exactly a Leo.
You are a Leo. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, Max. Take care.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for calling. Yeah. Bye-bye. Yeah,
Maxine DeHart, she's quite the gal. I tell you, she's a go-getter, and she recognizes everybody's birthdays, and she has the column in the Capital News that has been running for a long, long time now. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We're having a good time. The sun is shining. As soon as I get out of here, I'm going to go and, I'm going to help my daughter and her wife put up a pergola this afternoon. So we're going to have a pergola afternoon.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun.
That sounds like fun.
The
sounds like work.
The old boy loves to do that kind of stuff,
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great.
I'm going to do that.
I love those pergolas. Just recently talking with clients about wisterias and that sort of thing. And, the wisteria vine is one of the favorites, I think, of a lot of people because they just, those decadent long chains of blue flowers or even purple flowers, sometimes white. The wisteria is just a gorgeous vine. It's just a monster vine. It's huge, and it can eat up a house and spit it out.
It can. I call them hysterias, but
yeah, and they're like they're a tree that's a vine, is really what it is, and they want to get massive. So if you have the luxury of having a pergola or something that's separate from your house, where it's not going to get into the house, and get it trained onto that thing. And again, training is the key with wisterias. Actually, dictating to them where they're going to grow.
Yeah. Here's the deal. I've got a client on Hall Road that literally has a wisteria that was trained up a post. She eventually removed the post.
Oh.
It is a tree now with an umbrella top. So it made his own pergola.
Isn't that
Big
amazing?
trunk on it, foot in diameter.
Yeah.
And over. It's amazing. So, that's something a person could do. It's a long-term job. This thing's been in the ground for 20 years, but it's something a person can do.
Yeah, I always just mention that, and it's good to mention it on the show, is that people who are thinking of getting wisterias, just remember that each one is capable of being literally a tree.
Yeah.
And I know out in the Lake Country area, there was one, and I don't know if it's still there, but it used to go up this like a Douglas fir tree, and it completely covered the entire Douglas fir up to about 60 feet. Well, it was only 60 feet tall, so it went right to the top, and it literally just looks like a giant wisteria. You can't really see the tree much anymore. Yeah. It's an amazing vine, and funny enough, in those situations, it doesn't bloom quite as much as the ones that you manage and tweak and prune.
Right, Ken. I have a client. Well, it's Debbie Harborn's client. She's a gardener in town, very very good gardener.
Yeah,
and she has a client on Lakeshore, and I've sent you the picture of it. A grape that was planted in the 1930s.
Yes.
It's got a trunk on it 3 feet in diameter. It's a huge, huge grapevine. It's a trunk like 3 feet in diameter. It's just
Isn't
incredible.
That amazing?
250-862-2525 to get through to us today. Ken and I are just chatting away like we normally do. It's like talking over the back fence, gardening talk. That's what we do. And we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in with more AM 11. Okay, we're back again with you on the AM 1150 Garden Show, and we've got some callers here, which we are so happy that you are calling in because that's what makes the show. And Addie is calling, and she is one of our callers that's been calling in for a long, long time. Good morning, Addie.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're well.
Yeah, good, thanks.
I have planted seedlings of different things like tomatoes and hostas and that, and those little dome things. And now my what is it? I'm not sure which one of the plants it is, but anyway, they're getting too tall for the dome. They're touching the hollyhocks. That's what it is. The hollyhocks. They're touching the top of the dome. So what should I do? Should I take that particular one out and put it into a larger pot?
The hollyhocks can be just right straight outside without any protection. But yet, even if they're going from the dome into the straight sun, they might, I think you still have to sort of ease them into that full sun. But they should be fine outside with or without any protection.
Okay, so but the thing is, the rest of the dome a lot of plants haven't come out yet.
Oh, I see. So it's like a little coal frame, is it, or is it?
Yeah, well, it's those little things that have the little pods that you pour water in and they expand and you put the seed in.
Oh, so it's more like a little mini greenhouse kind of thing.
I guess so.
Yeah.
If you can transplant the bigger plants out and start moving them on to their final destination, I think that might be a good idea.
So but it's too cold now, though.
Not for hollyhocks.
Oh, it's not?
No.
What about for zinnias?
Zinnias, yeah, it's still too cold for zinnias, yeah.
They're the ones that are giving me the most grief, hollyhocks and zinnias. So, but that's okay. I'll deal with that as long as I know I can put them into a bigger pot. And some of my zinnias I've already I've already got them going outside into the shade. And yesterday they were in the sun for about 10 minutes.
Ooh,
and then
perfect.
today I'll put them in the sun for maybe about half an hour.
Yeah.
To kind of make them hardy enough to go outside. So,
yeah, that's right.
So that's what I'll do. I'll put them in bigger pots and then just transplant them when it's safe.
Yep.
Rock.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other thing, my amaryllis bulbs. I took them all out of the soil. I remember all the leaves were going yellow, and I took all the leaves off. The amaryllis bulbs themselves are very, very firm.
Oh, good.
So should I just plant them in a pot and leave them in the house until the danger of frost is past?
Yeah, and then get them outside eventually and have them growing all summer in a nice sunny spot, either in the ground or in the pots.
But right now they just look like a bulb. There's nothing coming out of the center of them.
Well,
they will eventually.
They should be viable, Addie, and they're just confused.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I would be confused too. But anyway, thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
My Christmas cactus is blooming profusely, so that's okay.
Oh, great.
Amaryllis is freaking confused.
Fabulous.
Okay. We'll talk to you guys again next week.
Yep.
You have a great week.
Merry
Thanks,
Christmas.
Addie.
You take care. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to Donna. Thank you for being patient, Donna. We're love to have you with us.
Hi, and I'm sorry I turned in late this morning, so you might have already answered this. I bought several plants, of course, from a nursery. Anyway, and I know it's too early, but I'm wondering if some of the perennials might be able to go out, like the candy floss and that stuff, like candy.
All those can go
candy
out.
tuft, yeah. All the perennials, all shrubs, all perennials, all trees, all cold crops. So that would be, in the vegetable area, all kinds of vegetables are good to go. The only thing that we're protecting at this point are plants that are sort of subtropical or semi-tropical or that really are heat lovers.
Yeah. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, cucumbers, squash, any of those things need heat.
Yeah,
and basil.
And basil, yeah, you have to wait till the end of May.
Yeah.
So, but anything else is good to go. There's lots of good things, peas, and I usually aim for the beans about the beginning of May. But Don's going to
I'm putting mine out this weekend. I don't care what Ken says.
He doesn't care. He's going to just do it.
Okay, so the other thing is I have a little plastic greenhouse, that I can put them in. So would they be okay in there now? Not the tropicals, but the ice plants and the things like that.
Yeah, the ice plants are a little tender, so they got to be protected a little bit.
So not in the greenhouse yet, still in the house, okay?
Well, which type of ice plant is it? Do you know the name of it? Is it Delosperma?
I can. Just hang on a second.
Is it the Delosperma? If it's a Delosperma one, it can go out in the cold frame. But if it's what's the other one? Tritoma?
They're all over my house because, of course, I'm keeping them safe.
Oh, okay.
No, that one didn't have a...
Not mesembryanthemum.
This is a Delos.
Yeah, that's one. Delosperma.
Delosperma, yeah. So those ones you can put them out in the greenhouse.
Okay.
But you just have to watch this transition from indoors to outdoors. That's often when the plants will get damaged. And sometimes they don't freeze, but the sun just burns them up because they're not used to the bright light.
Yes, I know. I left my geraniums, so I overwinter my geraniums, so then, start them in and out and in and out. And I left them out in the sun the other day, and of course the sun was way hotter than I thought it was. And so, yeah.
They turn white.
Yeah, 10 minutes is enough for the first introduction to full sunlight. So 10 minutes out, bring them back in. The next day, 10 minutes. Then after a couple of days, you can go to 20 minutes, then 30 minutes, and you kind of slowly increase it, right? And then that gets the leaves where they start to produce this chemical inside the leaf that acts as a sunscreen.
Okay.
And that chemical has to build up over about maybe 3 weeks or so. So you kind of gradually see if a leaf is born into the full sun, like if you had seedlings and they just pop up in full sun, they're instantly already have that chemical going. But when we grow them in the house, there's no need for any of that sunscreen stuff. So what they do is they just grow the normal leaf, and then it just doesn't have protection against sun.
Right. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thank you, dear.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. And I tell you, Amber, what we should do is take a break, because then it gives us a nice chunk of time between the break and the final 15 minutes we have. We'll have a full 15 minutes. 250-862-2525. Now's the chance to get on the phone, and you'll be on hold for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll answer your questions. And we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. That's where we are, CKFR, and we're here every Saturday morning to talk to you about gardening, and it's always a pleasant thing to do. And we're here, and right now we're going to talk to Sandy. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, nice to hear from you.
Well, I just come out into my greenhouse, and I'm really mad.
Oh dear. You're really mad.
A beautiful tomato plant, and it is gone.
Gone?
Yeah, I've got critter problems.
Uh-oh. I thought it was one of those walking tomatoes.
Yeah. In fact, they have almost decimated everything in my greenhouse. I have one pepper plant left from the winter.
And what kind of critter are we talking about?
Oh, probably mice.
Oh.
We thought they were rats, but I think it's probably mice. But anyhow, there was a plant here yesterday, and there isn't today.
Well, that's sad.
It's very sad because it was almost ready to go outside.
Oh.
And I brought that over from the winter.
Oh, boy.
Oh, really? Holy.
So I've got calla lily plants. They sprouted up really quick. When I noticed I had big pots underneath the bench, and when I pulled them out, they were, just starting to sprout out, and they grew tall fast. So one of them just about 3 feet tall. It's got flowers on it already.
Wow.
Last year it grew and didn't get any flowers.
I've never grown a calla. I've never grown a calla in my life. I've seen them, I've had them, I've seen other people with them. I've tempted to do it because they are a lovely plant. How long, Sandy? Do you keep yours? You keep yours as a bulb over the winter, or you keep it as a plant?
Yeah, I don't dig them up. I just let them die down, and then I shove the pots underneath the bench and just leave them for winter. Like, don't water them or anything.
Okay.
Just leave them.
Okay.
And then when they start looking a little green, then I start putting water to them like you would, anything else that was dormant.
And so sometimes you don't have blossom.
Last year I didn't. The plant got huge, but there was no flowers.
Interesting.
Well, this year I see at least 3 flowers on it now, and I put peony rings around them to hold them up.
Okay. So how tall do they get?
Well, one of them's 3 feet tall already.
Really?
The other one's about 2 feet tall.
Wow. Well, Sandy, I'd love to have a picture of that when it comes into its prime. Send me a picture. I'd love to.
Yeah, because they're beautiful purple with a white edging on them.
Sounds lovely.
I think we're going to have one of them.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I still have this yellow geranium.
Okay.
And it's struggling.
You're talking yellow leaf or yellow flower?
No, yellow flower. It's like the European tiny flower, but it's yellow. And it's struggling, too, because its leaves get chomped off. I may just have to give it to you just to
keep it alive,
just to preserve it.
Yeah.
Well,
I was actually going to give it to you for your birthday, but then I don't go anywhere, so we didn't do that.
Oh, isn't that nice of you? The thought it's always the thought that counts.
It'll get to you sooner or later.
Yeah. Teresa Teresa Hodge just gave me a little message here about calla or canna. She grows them every year. But Teresa, we're talking calla, Calla.
Yeah, these are the more tender.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering when I can start putting them out because it's getting tall already and they're pretty tender in the greenhouse.
Yeah. I think you're going to be.
Plus, I don't want them to get eaten off.
Yeah. I think, you have to do some pretty drastic mouse control or whatever kind of rodent it is.
We have stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And they bypass it and go straight for my plants.
So the bait. And do you have, I guess you've got lots of opportunity for them to get in then.
Well, we can't see anywhere that they can get in, but they're coming in somehow.
Yeah. It's
doesn't take much of a crack.
No, and they just find the tiniest little hole. I know that when we build newer cold frames and that sort of thing now, we try to line them completely everywhere with that half-inch mesh or the quarter inch mesh, and it just keeps all those little critters out. Because they come from underground, even if
what's the foundation of your house?
I'm not sure. It's really, really old.
Well, yeah, because you want to dig. Sometimes Ken has done this. He dug down along the side down to a foot and a half, and put that mesh right down. So they'd have to dig down really deep to get underneath the mesh. And you can line the base. I don't know if you've got a concrete base or a wooden base or what's going on there, but digging a trench around the outside of the house and the greenhouse.
Yes, you put literally like about a foot underground at least, and then about up to 18 inches above the ground is ideal. And then you just go all the way around the entire building, and then even around the doorway. It's really frustrating.
It's terribly frustrating because I had beautiful plants come through the winter. My pepper plants were doing great and had flowers and a couple fruits on them already, and they've cleaned all the leaves off of everything except for one. And I'm not sure, by the time I can put it out, I'm not sure if I'm going to have anything come through.
Well,
and I'm not even starting seeds in there anymore. I start them on my windowsills just...
Yeah, because they'll eat the seeds. I had the same experience with cucumber seeds years ago, and put out a bunch of very expensive cucumber seeds, and I came in the morning, and every single one had been popped out of the little planting, and the little shell was left there because they just ate they cracked them and ate them like candy.
A couple of years ago, I couldn't figure out why my seeds weren't coming up, and I checked, and everyone had been dug up. The seed wasn't even there.
Yeah, gone. Absconded.
Anyhow, just being happy that I've got a couple of green things in there.
Yeah. Sandy, you're always a fascinating caller, and we appreciate it. Now, look you're up high, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm up on the flat.
Yeah. So, you want to take a little bit more caution than somebody down by the lake when you're doing these things, as you know, right?
I'm not really good at getting down on the ground anymore, so we're putting in raised beds this year.
Perfect. What, 4 feet high?
They're actually not quite 4 feet high because they are 4 feet high, but we're burying them part way down.
Oh, okay.
So
good for you, Sandy.
So don't have to bend anymore.
I'm with you. I'm reading your mail.
We may have to come up and see things after
a while.
I would
love to. I'd love to when this mayhem ends here. I'm getting vaccinated on May the 3rd. Donna's already had hers, so we're getting there.
Yeah. It'll happen.
You bet.
We'll see you later.
Okay, dear. Right. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Sandy.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, okay. Well, here we are. We got a few minutes left here, 250-862-2525 to get through to us today. We're here every Saturday morning and always enjoying our time with you in your, either in the house or out in the garden or whatever. I just got to remind people, too, to tell their friends out of town that they can listen to the Garden Show online.
Yes, on the internet.
You just go AM 1150 Kelowna, listen, and bingo, there you are.
You just have to time it because we're on always about 3 minutes after 8 every Saturday morning.
So if you're in Australia, then forget it because it's the middle of the night there.
Of the night. Well,
but
you might want to just stay up for the heck of it.
Yeah, right.
It's not really applicable. I guess the climate is quite different.
They can listen to us at 2 o'clock in the morning or something. I don't know what it is, but 17 hours difference anyway. I know that. 17 hours difference in Australia, and as a matter of fact, right now it's 17 hours in the future there.
Right.
It's 17 hours ahead of us. Like they're already on Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Sunday in Australia right now.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it is. It's a fascinating thing how those sort of things work. So we talked about the length of the day because it is getting longer and longer and longer. Mm-hmm. And I still say, it's going to be interesting to see if we don't change the hour this fall and stay as we are.
Mm-hmm. Either way, doesn't matter. Just don't change it to me. I just rather just keep it something. And keep it the same.
I'm of the belief here, Ken, and I've grown up with it. Right, I remember this happening. Remember the first time? I remember it happening. Mom said, now the time change is coming, so you've got to get to bed earlier, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works pretty good the way it is, and I don't mind the change. It doesn't bother me. I've never got anxious, and I've never, got whatever happens to people sometimes with the different
it's because, whenever it happens is for you and I is we're always in spring, and we're flat out. Mm-hmm. And we're probably not sleeping all that great anyway.
Right.
So
we got to go. Ken, we've got Helen is joining us on line 1. Good morning, Helen.
Morning, Helen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have Saturn peach tree, and can you tell me when the best time to spray peach tree is?
Well,
it's been in bloom, or is it too late?
Yeah, you have to just. There's a schedule specifically for peach trees, and it starts in the spring. As soon as you get through spring, generally you'll give it a good pruning. You prune them fairly hard, and then you'd give it a spray of a dormant oil with lime sulfur combination, and that's done every spring early. And then the thing will start to bud, and it gets to what's called a pink bud stage. So that's when the first buds just start to show a tiny little bit of pink, and then there's a protective fungicide that's applied. And that helps to prevent the brown rot that happens in the summertime sometimes. And then the tree grows on, and you have to thin the fruit out, 1 fruit every 10 inches over the whole tree. And, then there's sometimes a secondary spray after that around the end of May or so, but depends on the weather. But
now, Ken, is there something available that a homeowner can use?
Fungicide-wise?
Yeah.
Well, in peaches, there probably is a few things. I'm not familiar with those, but you can call local spray companies if you have to, and they would be able to take care of that for you.
What about copper in the spring? Is that going to hurt it?
No, copper is okay in the spring.
I've used copper on roses and things. Right
just
in the
timing, right? It has to be early pre-bloom on that one, or even post-bloom. But yours is blooming right now, eh?
Yes,
the peaches and the cots and all those things are out in bloom now.
So you might have to do a spray right after the flower, maybe of a fungicide, right, to prevent the brown rot. It's not much for insects that really bother them all that much, really. So.
Okay, so just do a fungicide as soon as they stop blooming. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your help.
Make me a peach pie when you get yourself some peaches.
Yeah, well, it's very different, the Saturn peaches. I've never known a Saturn peach.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, dear. Thanks for the call.
You.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, that'll be our last caller, Ken, because we are out of time here. We're going to have to go right to the plants and tips of the week. My tip of the week, it's time to plant your beans. Now, Ken says no, but I'm saying go out and plant your beans. Okay.
Breaking the law.
I planted them last year this time. This is when I planted them last year. So.
Yeah, and you had really good success.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Plant of the week is the Balsamorrhiza sagittata, which is the arrow-leafed balsam root, which is that beautiful yellow Okanagan sunflower. It's a common name for it, all through the mountains and hillsides today, right now.
Very nice. I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that when watering dry soil, pre-moisten it several times before you actually start watering. Now, those light waterings to get it to start to take on water, it's not really considered actually watering it because it's not going deep enough, but it's getting that soil starting to uptake the water, so it's going to accept the water and not just repel it, and it just runs away. My plant of the week is the pansies, and they're just beautiful. One of the happy little plants that love to be outside. It's frost or no frost. You can get those things outside in the middle of March if you want around here, and they just love the cool temperatures. So there you go. That's my tips and plants for this week. And remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube. Check out some of our videos. I just put out one on our geodesic dome, and another one on some irrigation tips. And we put out videos pretty much every week. So.
Perfect. I love little plants that have faces, too. That's pansies. That's very nice.
You bet.
My Shigo quote of the week this week is root sprouts come from meristematic points in roots. Mm-hmm. Roots do not have buds like the rest of the tree does. Say goodbye. We'll see you next week with more AM 1150 Garden Show.